Welcome to Trailer Geeks and Teaser Gods. I'm your host, Corey Nathan. This is where we get to speak with the brilliant and creative people who make the greatest coming attractions, movie posters, and digital campaigns of all time. Truly of all time. That's what this series is about within Trailer Geeks and Teaser Gods. This program is brought to you by 2496 Sound and Music Design, the best sound design and music elements in the business. We are also brought to you by the Golden Trailer Awards and by Soundstripe, the best royalty-free music for video, ads, and film. And I do a quick introduction of Benedict and Deborah on the other side in the midst of the conversation, so I won't belabor the point. So without further ado, enjoy this conversation, our continued tribute to Andy Kuehn. All right, it's so good to be with everybody again, and I am with my partner in crime, my caped not so caped crusader, Benedict Coulter. Benny, it's so good to be with you again, man.
Hey, Corey, how are you?
I am doing great. This is so much fun. We've done a few of these now, and I can't tell you how much fun I've been having with you, and getting to, see some old friends and meet some new ones. And today we are with Deborah Luster. Deb is a senior trailer and movie promo editor, and I am so glad to be with you, Deb. How you doing?
Thank you. It's nice to be here and to be included in this.
Oh yeah, it's great. It's great. And I figured a good way to start might be to introduce our listeners and and our audience to who you are, and give us a little background on your career, because you've had some real great highlights.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, let's see. I started at Kaleidoscope in 1975, and I was working with the Count, who was Jim Doherty, who was Andy's nephew. And he always worked at night, and I was his assistant. I came over from commercials. I was a commercial assistant for the in-house company of Wakeford Orloff. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they were a really big commercial company in the 70s. And they downsized, and I was out of a job. And Andy told my husband, Rick, he goes, well, we need another assistant. Do you think your wife would fill in for a little while? And so I went over there, and Andy's first thing goes, this is different than commercials. It's much more harder for an assistant than being a commercial editor. And I go, okay. And so when I got there, I go, no, this is actually really easy considering being in a commercial editor, where you had to take the dailies to locations with big moviola and set them up for the clients to watch and everything. So anyway, Jim Doherty was doing Jaws. And yeah, so that was like the first big intro, and I was his assistant on it. And he always wanted to work at night, which was a real drag. Called him the Count. And from there, I just kind of stayed on there till I think 1985 or something. I was there like 10 years.
Okay. And do you, looking back, I've just become such a fan of the history of this industry, and studied a little bit about the modern trailer industry, and Jaws. That campaign is largely considered where things change. It's like the beginning of how campaigns were done. Did you recognize how big of a deal it was when you were working on it?
It definitely was different. It just with the music and even the narration, because most of the trailers back then used narration, was different. Like with a mindless eating machine, or just when you thought it was safe. It was definitely different. The story wasn't laid out for you like the older trailers were, where you knew, if you watched a trailer, you knew the whole movie.
Right.
So it was a different type. It really gave you suspense, that opening.
Well, so let me back up for a second. So now I'm so curious about a bunch of things, but one is, are you from LA? Were your parents in the entertainment industry, or?
No, no. I was born in Ohio, but I came out here when I was 9.
Oh, okay.
Then I went to college up at San Francisco State.
Yeah.
I was a history major, and I had no idea what the film business was about at all. And I had was looking for work. And at the time I was going to be a history teacher. And there was a surplus of history teachers because of the Vietnam War and everybody was going into teaching. So they didn't have to go to Vietnam. And so I started going around to different movie companies because I thought, well, maybe I could get into historical research.
Right.
And that didn't work out. And I went to this one place called the Film Place, and they said, we don't know it. We have nothing like that. But if you want, you can be a receptionist, go for assistant for us. And I said, well, okay. And so that's where learned how to be an assistant, was with with commercial editing.
So when you were working on Jaws, number one, we learned that Andy had given Steven Spielberg basically supported him and advocated for Steven before a lot of other people recognized how big of a talent
Yes,
he
talent.
was. Was Spielberg coming into the office when you were working on the campaign?
I can't remember him coming in. I think it was mainly they went to the to Universal to screen, because back then all the screenings were done. You took the film and you went to a studio and you went to a screening room and you showed the producers and the directors at the studio.
Yeah. Well, I'm imagining the conversations that you might have been having with your family, and that you're working on this big Hollywood movie, and how those conversations went. How did those go?
Uh, it was like, it was so new to me that it was hard to explain
Yeah.
to somebody what I was doing in this movie about this giant fish.
Yeah, I mean, because
So
now you could say like, "Hey, you know how you go to the movie to see the coming attractions?"
yeah,
But I mean, it wasn't. I guess it wasn't. That wasn't the standard in 1975 yet. Like, because again, Jaws was like really the first big campaign
yeah, it was a huge blockbuster.
of that scope, so it was hard to explain to folks what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh no, it was always like, oh, so you take the best parts of the movie and stick them together.
Right, right, right.
That's always what you got. If
Okay.
you told somebody that you were a trailer editor and they asked you what you did.
So,
Yeah.
Debbie, Jim was the one who cut the Jaws trailer? Because we were all
No,
wondering who cut the Jaws trailer.
Jim Doherty.
Jim Doherty cut the.
Yes, Andy's
We're all-
nephew cut the yes. Jen
Amazing.
cut Close Encounters.
Yes, yes. Wow.
And but no, it was
Jim
Jim
is the one
Doherty who
cut
did
it.
the trailer.
Yeah.
And back then everybody cut TVs.
Oh, yeah.
All the assistants, everybody cut them.
Right, right. So you were already at Kaleidoscope. Um, do you remember the first time that you met Andy?
Yes, I do. It was like at first, he gave me the whole bit about how being a trailer editor's assistant was much harder than being a commercial assistant. And I said, okay. But
Yeah.
when I first saw him, I mean, Andy was something like from another era. I mean, he looked like he belonged on the silver screen. He had this tan. He was like, he lived with Clark Gable-ish.
Mm.
And he oozed masculinity, and he always had a big cigar with him.
Oh,
He had this kind of gravelly voice. So he was a little intimidating.
how
And
about that?
like the women loved Annie. This is all before like being gay was okay. You
Yeah.
know, and like women would just drop all over. Barbara Streisand would say to him, "Oh, why don't you marry you? I can set you up to some really," because Andy never came across as gay. And so people and actresses and stuff would always try to date him. He had like lots of beards at the time, like wannabe actresses and actresses, like Susie Kurtz, who was in The Sting, and he always had some beautiful woman on his arm for a long, long time until everything changed.
Yeah, yeah. Rob Hyams was saying that they would go to the Oscars or to other big, fancy industry events, and Andy was never without a great date.
Yeah,
For the
always had beautiful women around him.
Yeah, that's terrific.
Yeah,
So,
but
so
he had such a presence.
mm,
He was like he was the goat of trailers.
mm,
Let's face it.
yeah. So
And
as you were learning the craft, because you've gone on to become, a really accomplished trailer editor yourself, and still, um, how did Andy influence your work? How did Andy help you grow as a creative?
well, first, he let, as I said, he let all the assistants cut TVs.
Mm,
They had to do it on their own time and stuff. And he was wonderful about it because he would recognize you, to whoever, like the other editors or the producers or, the clients. He would let them know who cut it. He always acknowledged the editors, which was a really big deal, especially for women, because it was just Jan and I were the only women at the company for a long, long time until Margie came along, but she was a copywriter. And then later on, they got Maureen, who was there quite a bit. But so it was a big deal to be acknowledged, to, clients that this is who cut this.
Oh, that's great. That's great. What were some of the other campaigns that you were on?
Let's see. Well, I cut the trailers on. Well, of course, everybody cut TVs on Star Wars. Rick cut the teaser on it, actually, or the trailer. I can't remember. But so Star Wars,
Wow.
the trilogies, Raiders of the Lost Ark. I did the first Karate Kid. I did, let's see, War Games, which was a John Badham movie, I think it was. And I did, God, it's hard to think, a, a bunch of other, I did TVs on All the President's Men. And God, it's hard to think. I wrote some of them down.
That's okay. I put you on the spot. That's
Yeah,
okay.
I
But
know. It's hard to remember, especially because it was so, so long ago.
yeah, but those Star Wars, those were that campaign too. That was a seminal campaign that really,
Yes, that
was
changed
studied and
everything.
yeah, that's terrific.
Yeah. And
Uh,
Andy let editors come in. I had a whole bunch of stuff, trailers, TV spots done, finished on Star Wars and the Raiders campaign too.
yeah.
And I was still technically an assistant. I was helping other people.
And I would imagine that you're learning from all those other editors there too. Like,
Yes, always.
like that young buck, Benedict Coulter.
Benedict came after me, so he actually. Benny, you were never my assistant, right? You were basically Tom's assistant, or
I was Jan's. I was
yeah,
Bill Cox, and then Jan Bronco, and then Tom Kennedy.
yeah, yeah. Everybody was Bill Cox's assistant. Everybody went through Bill first, and then Jan. And Jan let me cut a lot of stuff, and I did a teaser. It was the first teaser I cut was on Hanover Street.
Oh yeah.
Trailer Geeks and Teaser Gods is brought to you by Soundstripe. So if you're an editor, a producer, a creative exec, a music supervisor, or even a podcaster like me, if you're a content creator of all stripes, if you will, and you're looking for the perfect library of music and sound effects, check out Soundstripe. With over 10,000 high quality tracks, including music from Grammy winning artists, Soundstripe makes music licensing hassle free. Believe me, I've tried it. I've been on there, I've navigated around. It was really terrific. It was really easy to use. So, with a simple subscription, you get unlimited access to a vast catalog, downloadable stems for creative flexibility, and AI song editing to customize tracks effortlessly. Plus, their seamless integration with Premiere, which is what most of my editor friends are on, it means a smoother editing experience. If you're ready to level up your production game with properly licensed, high quality music and sound effects, head over to soundstripe.com/trailergeeks and save 10% with code trailergeeks. That's soundstripe.com/trailergeeks and code trailergeeks. Trailer Geeks and Teaser Gods is brought to you by the Golden Trailer Awards. For folks who are just starting to get plugged in, the GTAs is an unconventional ceremony that honors excellence in feature film trailers, teasers, and movie marketing. Or as some folks like to think of it, it's the award ceremony for the short attention span. We all just celebrated the 25th Golden Trailer Awards. So would that be the Silver Golden Trailer Awards? Either way, it was a terrific show. Monica and Evie do such a wonderful job putting it together. Tons of fun, so much awesome work across the board. And mostly, it was just great to be together as a community. So keep an eye out for a number of exciting developments over the next year. Just make sure to stay plugged in at goldentrailer.com for a ton of exciting developments. That's goldentrailer.com.
Yeah,
But
it
you
was
know,
like that.
it's interesting, Corey, that what Debbie said, because I brought it up before, and other people brought it up before, about Andy really championing the editors and the assistants to the stars and filmmakers. You know,
Yes.
he
Mm.
would say, "This is Debbie who cut this," you know, and he would acknowledge you in the room, which was really important, you know, because I know a lot of people who don't do that, or who, people have not done that, you know, would kind of stay in front and, you know, keep the editors in the back. And he was exactly the opposite. He wanted you to shine, and he wanted you to be acknowledged for your work.
Yes.
What about the sense? Was there a sense of competition among the editors? Because I would imagine, no.
No, not really. They all helped each other. Everybody helped each other, I think. And especially the editors were really good with the assistants and helped them, tell them, oh, well, you should do this, or this is how this narration should lay in, or whatever. And, they told you if it wasn't good, but they also praised you and would tell then Andy, like, oh, well, Deb cut this or Benedict cut this,
Mm.
so they were never like, I think nowadays editors are very competitive and they don't want to share their knowledge because I found that out quite a bit, like, are they, oh, I use this piece of music and you can't use this piece of music, things like that. Where Kaleidoscope was very collaborative.
Mm.
Don't
Now,
you think that's right, Benny?
Yeah, you know, I came in 2 years after Debbie, so Debbie was already an established editor there, and everybody who I assisted was very generous with their time and their help and their opinion. So the only way we were really able to grow was with the help of, you know, the people who were already editing. And everybody was very generous, helping each other. It was really, you know, it's kind of the cliche, it was a little family. It really was. And there was no competition because kind of everybody had their own thing. So there was not like, well, I want to work on this. You had plenty to work on. So
mhm.
therefore, no competition.
What was the I've learned that there was a lot of time that was waiting for notes. And there was a lot of waiting in between, right? I know everybody's working a lot, spending a lot of hours there. So what was the in between time like?
Three-martini lunches at Musso's.
How close to Musso's was the
Close
was you
enough,
yeah,
yeah,
close enough to stumble back. Oh,
yeah.
that's great.
And well, because it's so different now being digital, everything's instantaneous. I mean,
Yeah.
you make notes right away from the client. Where back then you had to wait for dupes, reversals, because you had one print. And so you would break the print down and then you have to make copies of it to keep on cutting TV spots or whatever you were doing. And then graphics would take all day. You would put something in that you wanted a title or whatever, and you'd give it at eight at night or 9 at night.
Yeah.
So it's totally different. Everything is instantaneous now.
No, here's a serious question because Benny and I talked about this earlier this year when Benny came in to tell his story and share his experiences and so much about his career. It was great. But one of the really meaningful parts that I've heard a lot of feedback about is there were some folks who abused substances,
Oh,
from
yes.
alcohol to other drugs. I'm wondering if there was a time when you found that your creative was enhanced by the three martini. I'm only half joking when I ask that, but I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Well, let's say a lot of the old Kaleidoscope building, which was on Willoughby in Seward, all right, it had a long deck out and that surrounded all the editing rooms. And you'd always see like people out there smoking pot. All the editors would go out and smoke pot out there. And I guess it enhanced their abilities, you know. Uh, I never could do that. I could never concentrate on pot. I just never could. And, you know, other stimulants, let's say, were used when you had those late nights where you
Mm,
went till midnight or 2 o'clock just to wait around to get uh, some sort of special effect or graphic in or something like that.
yeah,
So it was very prevalent, just like it was in the 70s and 80s. I mean, it was part of Hollywood.
yeah. Yeah. Now, Benny did say, and I'll let you, I don't want to speak for you, Benny, because you were so generous in sharing your experiences, but came out the other side of that. Has been sober since 1987, if I remember correctly.
88.
Eight,
Give
1988.
me an extra year.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah,
and
Benny
found
took
that,
it to the dark side. Let's say that.
yeah, but found that the creative was still there, on the other side of sober. So the creative was still there. So that's encouraging. I don't mean to make, by the way, I don't mean to make light of different folks, and some folks, like I said, do struggle. So we don't want to make light of that. But I just, part of it is just that was part of, like you said, the Hollywood of the 70s and the 80s. I'm trying to get a
Yes.
sense of what
Oh
that,
yeah, I mean, listen, wait, I'm sure Debbie remembers the crazy Andy Kuehn Christmas parties.
Oh, God.
No, just craziness, and where it was this late 70s and 80s where everything went, you
Yeah.
know, and I just kind of did a little more than most other people, but it was kind of a way of life. And Debbie's right. It was in the industry, when the visual effects companies were working around the clock, they were all high, this
Mhm.
it's part of the budgets.
Now, Deb, you have a really interesting perspective because you spent a number of years at Cimarron, but you've also been at any number of other top shops, going back to when before Motion was Motion, it was CMP or Intralink.
Yes.
But then other shops, some of the best shops of today, AV Squad and, Tiny Hero, the, cool boutique that's growing,
Yeah, I
so
worked there shortly. Yeah.
you've had so I bring this up because I'm curious how having been at these shops, have you noticed how Kaleidoscope and Andy in particular impacted the industry of today and what you see at other shops where you kind of see Andy's influence or Kaleidoscope's influence?
Well, it's part of it is like uh, Kaleidoscope had a huge influence because they put out a lot of editors. They produced tons of editors, and Dan Asma, who was at Buddha Jones for
Yeah.
a long time, Benny, who from Trailer Park, and his other companies was at Kaleidoscope, and they filtered out to all these different companies, and a lot of that was because Andy produced really good editors. And you had that on your resume that you were a Kaleidoscope editor. It meant something. I mean, it doesn't now, but back then it did. You
No,
know,
I think it still means something. I think folks who
if you know what
understand.
Kaleidoscope is.
Yeah, no, I think folks who understand the origin of, the origin story of the industry, because we're not talking about the 1800s,
Yeah.
and there are still folks that are really active and, in fact, leaders in the industry, who started it, like we were talking about Skip before we hit record, who still has a huge impact, and Benny, of course, has a huge impact on the
Mm.
industry.
But
Uh,
there was also a standard. I mean, I remember that people would mention a trailer and said that's a Kaleidoscope trailer. The trails that when we were on with Greg, those majestic trails that he cut for Hoffa and the Untouchables, the stuff that he did on Indiana Jones, the stuff that Jan cut was absolutely majestic.
Oh, Amadeus was a beautiful.
Yeah, so there was a real sense of, this is there was definitely a style, a trailer to Kaleidoscope that it was beautifully crafted, and a lot of that was influenced by Andy.
mm, yeah.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if you realize this, but he's been gone. Andy's been gone for just over 20 years.
That is crazy.
It's
I can't
crazy.
believe that. It's been 20 years.
What do you miss most about him?
I just miss his presence. He was always very gracious, even though, as I said, I stopped working at Kaleidoscope in 85. If I ever ran into Andy, he was always really gracious and he would ask me how I'm doing and what I was working on. He was still interested in the business, even though he kind of had stepped back for a while. Even at Kaleidoscope, Benny, when Steve Panama came in and some of the other producers, Andy was stepping back. And I felt that his presence was missing a lot.
Yeah.
And you know, it I think that had a lot to do with me leaving Kaleidoscope too.
Did you stay in touch with him after you left?
Well, we would see him. You know, I was friends with his niece, Debbie Doherty, and we would run into him. You know,
Yeah.
not like Jan kept in touch with him quite a bit. You know, Margie at that time was living in Washington. She had moved to Washington, so you know, she didn't see him as much.
Mm. Trailer Geeks and Teaser Gods is brought to you by 2496 Sound and Music. 2496 Sound and Music has been publishing music and sound design in Hollywood for over 2 decades. While most traditional libraries started with music first, 2496 started from the ground up, creating killer sound design elements for trailers and film campaigns. Then they started building a music catalog which matches the sound design catalog perfectly, creating a powerful blend of sound, music, and emotion. Their founder, Lenny Jones, who's a pal of mine, really good guy, he is a motion picture and television sound editor with credits on top shows including Ancient Aliens and Unsolved Mysteries. 2496's sound design can be heard on current trailer campaigns, including many of the summer's box office hits. 2496's composers and sound designers hail from all over the globe, giving their clients not just 24/7 service, but an international style that will appeal to a global audience. They excel at rapid customizations and creative revisions, minimizing delays in your creative process. If you're looking for the sound of the next for your next trailer campaign, check out 2496 Sound and Music at 2496sfx.com. That's the numbers 2496 and SFX like sound effects. That's 2496sfx.com. One other thing I was curious about, Bill Cox's name has come up.
Yes.
We've obviously talked a lot about Steve Panama. Tell me more about Bill Cox. I don't know very much other than he's
Did
someone
he
who
pass away?
trained some of the best editors of all time.
Did he pass away? Does anybody know? Benedict, do you know?
Yeah, he passed away I think about 10 years ago. We had a memorial for him. It was about, I think, 10 years ago.
Why wasn't I invited? Hello?
I don't know.
I didn't know about it.
By the way, so I have to interject a quick story here. It has nothing to do with Kaleidoscope, but I think you'll appreciate it. So I used to play poker with Bill Macy, not William H. Macy, but Bill Macy, for the fellow who played the husband in Maude, if you remember.
Right, yes.
And he was already about 93, 94. Always just so wonderful. He had great stories. And then subsequently, I had been playing poker with him for about 5-6 years. And then my oldest kid went to school with William H.'s daughter at the Performing Arts High School downtown. And I said, "It's so nice to meet you, Bill." And we actually had met once or twice before, William H. and I. And I said, "I'm sure you don't remember me, but I'm actually friendly with your namesake, Bill Macy." And he goes, and William H. says, "Oh man, it's such a shame. We lost a good one." I said, "Oh no, I just saw him last month. He passed away. This is terrible." So I didn't know he died. So literally about a week later, I'm at a poker table and there's Bill. So I said, "Bill, I don't know if you know this, but William H., William H. Macy is under the impression that you passed away." He goes, "Yeah, but I got better." So he took it all in stride. Anyway, I don't know why I thought of that, but it's Bill and passed away. So, okay, so tell me about Bill Cox.
Bill was a real old school editor. He started in the studios, and then came over. He really, taught me trailer editing and what was expected of a trailer assistant. And as I said, he was probably the first one because I worked with Jim Doherty just for a little while through Jaws, and then I was Bill's assistant, and he was the first that really let me start cutting, and he cleared it with Andy, saying, "Hey, I want Deb to try to cut some TVs or whatever." So he was really generous with his time, but he was definitely old school and he was real union, right, Benny?
Oh, totally. Totally. And you're right. It was very old school. It's kind of like when your kids want to learn driving and they have to do the driving part.
Basics, yeah.
Find some older guy who's going to go around driving. Bill taught us all the basics, all the stuff you needed to know before you even started thinking artistically. You
Yes.
need this, you need to do that. It was like all the preparation was really important. He was very meticulous about it, but as Deb said, he was also very generous with his time and his suggestions. And yeah, it's crazy. He taught all of us.
Yes. Yeah. I think he taught Jan too. Maybe,
Yeah,
I can't remember. Jen started with Dave Gilbert, who was a producer at Kaleidoscope and also a copywriter. And he had a small side business. And Jan, I know, started doing that on 16 millimeter, And then when Andy really came and started bringing in work, Jen was definitely his first editor.
So interesting. You brought up the union. Was Kaleidoscope union from the get-go?
Yes. But Andy also had another company called Jubilee Films. And that company is what all the assistants and everything, their paychecks went through that until Andy got them in the union. But Andy was very good about getting people into the union.
Okay.
I never had to beg him to get me in or anything. He goes, okay, you're in the lineup and you'll be in 6 months or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Now
But
most shops.
Kaleidoscope was one of the few union shops, There's just that's the one thing is like there's very few union trailer shops. I think Kaleidoscope was, and I don't know if Aspect was or not.
Aspect what? Oh yeah,
I think they are.
they did go
they were
union
for a while.
Yeah.
Similar.
In Motion's union, but I
Yeah,
can't
carryover
think of
from
anybody else's union.
basically where Tom Kennedy went. Went union. Tom.
Yes,
Tom.
CMP West went union, and that's
Yeah.
went over and worked over there.
I think that was his influence at Cimarron as well. Tom's influence at Cimarron.
Yeah.
There are very few union shops left. I think Motion still is. Aspect still is, from what I and Lisa and Nadi can correct me if I'm wrong. But the in-house places are Universal.
Yeah, I worked at Universal quite a bit.
Yeah, they're doing great over
we
there.
we all owe him dearly because I got great health care.
Me
Thanks.
too.
Motion picture health care is just unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, the good news is that shop, and Benny, you know this, the other shops from your time at Trailer Park and other shops that you've been at are very, very competitive, specifically because some of these standard bearers of the industry, like Kaleidoscope and Aspect and Cimarron back in the day, those were the shops that Ant Farm was trying to beat, so they didn't go union, but the benefits packages that they put together, and then subsequent shops after that, they had to put together really competitive packages to make, to compete with the Kaleidoscopes of the world.
I don't think that's true anymore, though.
So you don't, that's not your experience?
No, well, nowadays, it's because there's so many people out there that, young kids and stuff who think that they can be editors by working on their computer and cutting a few things together. And Benny, this, where the young kids will come in and they'll work for nothing. And, you start them on doing digitals or whatever. And the price has really gone down for, editors in general and the packages that you get.
Yeah. Well, it is definitely.
I want to hear something really crazy, Corey.
Yeah.
The price of a 30-second TV spot today is the same price as of a 30-second spot then at Kaleidoscope.
And we're not talking about adjustment for inflation. We're talking about literal.
We're talking about 45 years ago.
Yeah.
It was the same price.
No, I believe it. I believe it. If Smitty's listening to this, he's screaming at his at his phone right now.
Yeah.
You're telling me,
Yeah, I know. It's hard. I mean, it's basically you're paying a studio now to cut a movie for them because you want that prestige of having it on your website.
Yeah.
But Benny, it's just that the packages they give you, they want free revisions forever, on something. It used to be they got 2 revisions and then you start billing them for revisions again. That's all changed, And most people now, I think, make money more on their digital or things from Netflix or, Prime or Apple TV. That's where the money is now.
So
Still want that trailer. They still want that AB trailer, to put on their website because it's a status thing.
So now I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot. I didn't tell you I was going to do this, but I'll give you a minute to think about this because I'm going to ask Benny. I've been asking most of the questions, and now I'm going to let you guys turn the tables on each other and see if you have any questions for Benny, and Benny, if you have any questions for Deb. But Benny, since Deb didn't know I was going to do this, I'm going to have you ask. Do you have any questions for Deb, Benny?
Yeah, I
Okay.
have a question for Deb
Okay.
because uh, the Count was really a character, and Deb got a lot more time working with him. Then I took over a couple of pieces from him that he was cutting. How was it, Deb? I mean, I remember he would just only show up at night. That's I told Corey we used to call him Count
Yes.
Dracula because
Yes.
he worked at night.
Yes.
How did you deal with this? Because I mean, you had to work during the day.
Yeah. Yeah. It was hard, especially because I was married at the time, and Rick would go, "Why are you working till 10 o'clock at night with with Jim?" And but you're there, literally I was there at what 9 in the morning until he wanted to leave, you know. But he was a character. He had a very, very dry sense of humor, very dry, and but he was hysterical, you know.
Yeah,
It's very sad, Jim finally died of a drug overdose, and that's part of the dark side of the whole business with, the coke and whatever else that was out there in the 70s and 80s. He took it farther than you did, Benny, because you're still here.
yeah, yeah. Sadly,
Yeah.
but I mean, I know that Bill was very communicative, and I never thought that Jim was very communicative. He had those kind of little quiet remarks, but
Yes.
how did he teach you? Did he show you stuff when you were working?
No, not really. It was just basically handing me because, at the time everything was on film. So he'd hand me a trim. Go, okay, put this over, and then get me this, you know. So he was not at all helpful. That
Because I remember I had to take over something from him, and I remember going in his room, and there were trims everywhere,
everywhere.
hanging on the wall, on the bed,
Yes.
in the bins. They were
And you'd
everywhere.
have to find them. You'd have to find the exact trim he wanted,
Yeah.
It was like a nightmare. And he was always very slow about it. So you just look, come on already. Come on. What do you want?
Incredibly talented.
All right. So one more fun question, and you could both answer this. Favorite campaign or trailer of all time? It could be yours, or it could be one that you remember that Andy was involved with, or just maybe something just out in the universe that you weren't involved with, or Andy wasn't involved with. Your favorite trailer of all time?
Let's see. Well, one of them that I always thought was hysterical. I was actually Greg's assistant on that trailer, and then I cut TV spots on it. Was The Life of Brian on Monty Python,
Oh,
and I remember the ending line, or one of the lines was, "You'll never, if you never see another movie, you'll never see The Life of Brian." And I just love that. It was like it just like kind of it was so frivolous and so fun, and it took a while for people to get it.
yeah.
And then the other one was, Benny, you remember Floyd Peterson, right? He had
Oh yes.
him and Larry Gagne actually had the radio audio part
Yeah, yeah.
of Kaleidoscope, and they were doing a Sinbad movie, and the line was, "See, no, oh God, no, I forgot it. See, imagine nothing, you will see everything." You know, it's these crazy lines.
Benny, I forget if I asked you that question on our
Well, you
episode.
asked me, of all trailers, I always go back to The Alien because that was kind of
Yeah.
that's a tentpole for us. But at Kaleidoscope, Jaws and Taxi Drivers,
Oh
they
man.
were just chilling to me. Because of this incredible copy, how well it was cut, it was just like, wow, this is insane. I work there now. This is, so those were the ones that really I remember were like so inspiring to me. But a lot of stuff that everybody else cut there, and from Greg to Debbie to Tom Kennedy, everybody had kind of came up with their own little gem uh, while I was there. I was
Yeah.
there. Everybody participated in the kaleidoscope of it all. Like everybody contributed.
Yeah,
Jan had incredible trailers.
yeah, she did beautiful work. Um, Very sweeping, just beautiful work. Um,
Do
yeah.
you know how closely Bobby Greenberg worked with Andy? Because I know R. Greenberg was involved in the Alien piece, but I don't know how Richard, who passed away recently, I don't know what the dynamic was between the two brothers. Do either of you know that?
Well, R. Greenberg was definitely Panama's, Panama started using him a lot.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because they go back to the Alien that they were, designers, obviously, that kind of, talk about generations of companies. There, R. Greenberg, in a lot of way, was the parent of Imaginary Forces, which Kyle Cooper came out. Like, there's this, you can always track the lineages. That's why it's so fascinating to me. And they all come together at different points, these interrelated industries. Well, Deb, this is really fantastic. Before we scoot here, we definitely covered a lot. But is there anything important that you wanted to add that we haven't discussed yet?
No, I just think that, Andy did gave me the ability to work for a lot of other companies like Cimarron, where because of that, I got to work with Clint Eastwood on a lot of his movies,
Yeah,
because of because I came from Kaleidoscope. And I cut a number of his trailers.
yeah.
And I think that having that on your resume, Kaleidoscope on your resume, really, really did help.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was a great calling card.
Yes, it definitely was. And I really, wish Andy was still around, because he was definitely a special man. And his parties were crazy, as Benedict said, but it was just him actually, taking the time to work with editors.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a whole other part of your career. We could spend an hour just talking about the Clint Eastwood movies that you did. I mean, some of the best ones. So, but this was great, Deb. I'm so appreciative of you taking the time to remember Andy and those Kaleidoscope days. Thanks for doing this.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me, guys.
You bet.
No, it's good to see you, Deb. It's good to
Yeah.
see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too.
Thank you so much for listening. As always, please rate us and review us wherever you get your podcasts. It really does help us in the rankings so more folks can learn about these great stories, how the modern trailer industry started, and some of the stories behind some of the greatest trailers of all time. It really does. It's really wonderful to hear some folks and how so many folks have engaged in the conversation and learned about our industry and learned about some of these great campaigns. Follow us on all the socials. I'm really easy to find. I'm at Corey S. Nathan, at Corey, S as in Sam, Nathan. That's at Corey S. Nathan. And check out our awesome sponsors, 2496 Sound and Music Design, the Golden Trailer Awards, and Soundstripe. Really grateful to all those folks for helping us keep the lights on. Thank you for joining us. Now go do some inspired work.